Mike Missanelli Show, 97.5 The Fanatic. You know, the Eagles do play a game, and we're all really consumed right now with the Sixers. I get it, but this is a pretty important game for the Philadelphia Eagles, and we'll see. This is really the first test in 3 games they will have played. They beat 2 teams that they should have beaten, and now the Cincinnati Bengals. So let's get some insight on this team. I haven't talked to my man for a really long time, so it is a privilege that he is joining us today. He, of course, is the great number 36. He's on the Comcast Business Hotline. Brian Westbrook. B. West, how you doing?
Mikey, Miss, it is my pleasure to be here today, man. I'm so excited to be able to talk to you again. I'm doing really, really well, man. Excited for this weekend.
Awesome. All right, let's talk about, I know you followed this team, and so last week they ran the football. And I'm thinking, I wonder what B. West is thinking about this. I especially thought of you when Saquon lowered his shoulder and just drove that guy into the ground like you used to do, right?
I tell you what, Saquon looks so. I mean, he's just looked really good all season long. He's looking quick, very explosive. He has that long speed. I thought he had a long touchdown on his hands last week. He continues to show why he has been one of the best running backs in the NFL over the last 5 to 8 years, as long as he can stay healthy. And that's really the key to a lot of our seasons here in Philadelphia: health.
But B. West, here's the thing now. They've kind of flipped the script. Now, with that heavy running attack, you know, it was very successful. Now, they play better teams that shut down that running. They're going to have to. But is this the way this team should play now? They hired an offensive coordinator supposed to put dazzling motion in there and beef up the passing attack. And they went basic last week, and they beat a team in a submission. What do you think?
Well, listen, the Giants are not a very good football team. The Browns are not a very good football team. So hopefully against those types of teams, you're able to do whatever the heck you wanted to do. You wanted to Saquon playing his former team. You want to get him going. You want him to have one of those days, the same type of day that he had last week. And so that makes sense to me. But what I think the key for Kellen Moore in this offense is to not put Jalen Hurts in situations where he has to carry the team by himself. And that means run the football. That means hand the ball off. That means put him in third and manageable, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4. That's what you have to do. You have the talent to do it when you have Saquon Barkley in the backfield in a very good offensive line. Why not hand him the football and make the game easy for Jalen Hurts? So many people will say here to that, Mike, well, you just paid him $257 million. Why would we need to make it easy? Because you want to win games. That's it. You want to win football games, make it easy on your quarterback, and Jalen Hurts will begin to look much, much better when you have a running game like with Saquon.
Yeah, and that played out last week because he hit a couple of big passes, explosive plays, but probably because they were running the football and set that up. In the past, he has made dangerous throws where he's trying to, go long and go for a big explosive play when the timing is not right for that. Is that what you see?
Well, it's too much pressure on them. I mean, just think about the games where A.J. wasn't playing. All the pressure falls back on Saquon and, of course, the quarterback. And now you're trying to make plays without your best receiver, probably one of your best players. I would go back and forth between A.J. and Saquon as the best player on the team. But your quarterback's trying to make plays because, your best player, and A.J. Brown, is not there. And so that just didn't work out. When you have A.J. Brown on the field, you have a guy that's faster than most DBs. You have a guy that's bigger and more physical than most DBs. That makes it much easier for the quarterback to complete passes. That changes the game when you have them in the lineup. And so, of course, you don't have to throw the ball as much because Saquon was going off these last couple of weeks. There will be a game where the running game gets stopped. Now your quarterback is going to have to lean on his ability to pass the ball. That's when these little short passes that turn into long passes to A.J. Brown, that's when you get Devontae Smith involved in the game. That's when you have to start throwing the football. And Jalen Hurts is going to have to be good in those games.
We're talking to Brian Westbrook, the great number 36. Brian, I got to ask you about this the Sirianni controversy that went over the last couple of weeks. It was a hot topic, and everybody nationally was talking about it, that, what kind of a coach is this with this immaturity? He's getting involved in sideline beefs with fans, and then he brought the kids in, and people were saying, no, it's a shield from the tough questions. How did you process all that?
Usually those are conversations when you're not winning, right? You just want a doggone game. Everyone knows it's hard to win in the NFL. And everyone wants to know, well, what does Nick Sirianni do? He doesn't call the offense, doesn't call special teams or defense. He is the manager of this football team. And so it's easy to pick on Nick Sirianni for everything he does. And listen, I would not have been the coach that is yelling at the fans. But that's Nick Sirianni. I'm much more stoic than that. Andy Reid is much more stoic than that. He's not doing that. I'm not bringing my kids into work, into the studio either. But that's Nick Sirianni. And there's a reason why they hired Nick Sirianni. So I don't think Howie was surprised. I don't think Jeffrey Lurie was surprised. There's a reason why they hired him, because of things like this. They want that youthful exuberance, that fun-loving type of feel, the type of coach that's not going to put pressure on Howie to get him out of the way. That's Nick Sirianni. All these things line up with the type of guy that they wanted here. And now he has to go win games. And if he can win games, all these other things, they get swept.
They melt away. Yeah, but how does that play with players? Like, because I look at players and they go, these are professional people.
Right.
Do they eye roll that kind of stuff? Like, how does that resonate in the locker room?
Well, I would certainly, me personally, I would eye roll it. But remember, you have 53 personalities in that locker room. So to me, all that coach gimmicky stuff, I don't want to hear any of that. All I want to know is the things that can help make me be a better player and help us win games. All the other stuff outside of that, and that could be a coach, that could be other players. That didn't matter to me. But there are some guys in the locker room, Mike, that they get excited about that. They get hyped up by the coach doing those types of things. So as a coach, you have to speak to guys like myself and just leave them alone, give them the information so they can go do their job. And there's other guys that you have to speak to by doing stuff like Nick Sirianni did. And so, remember, you got 53 guys on the team. Some guys are going to love it. Some guys are just it's really not their thing. But you got to speak to them all to be able to be successful in the NFL.
Yeah, so this is like, I started talking about this a little bit, the concept of NFL players playing for a coach. And from my experience, and I think you kind of defined that, it's like, you show me a game plan to win, I'll take care of my own business. Do NFL players actually play for a coach?
That's a concept that is truly developed after a game, right? I mean, if you're playing for a coach, I'll give you an example. When I was in San Francisco, and of course I wasn't a coach, I was a player, but the guys wanted to beat, we played the Eagles that year. We wanted to beat the Eagles. Oh, we're going to do it for Brian Westbrook. I got in the game for maybe 3 plays, so it really didn't matter. And I didn't really know those guys anyway. We wanted to win, but, of course, in theory, we're saying it's for Brian Westbrook or for the head coach. But I want to win because I want to be good at my job. I want to make money next year. I want to do the things that matter. I want to win because winning is what I worked all doggone week for. Now, of course, after the game, it feels good to be able to say we won this for Nick, or, Nick is doing this for us. But again, as players, that's not the number one thing. The number one thing for players is job protection. The number one thing is not to put anything on tape that you don't want to see on Monday and Tuesday. But the most important is find a way to win. And, of course, I can say whatever to the media. That's just part of the game. I got to play the game in the media too, right? I can say whatever. But, for winning for the coach or for other players, it sounds good, and that's some kind of a talking point, a rallying cry. But at the end of the day, we got 3 downs to get a first down, and my job is to try to get 10 yards in between those 3 downs.
You guys are professional. That's why I think my point. When you're a professional, it's a little different. And to that note, I just want to talk about a quarterback in a huddle. That you've been in many huddles. You played for a guy who had the exact opposite personality that Jalen Hurts does. Jalen Hurts is stoic to the point of almost being weird, like robotic. Donovan was goofy. Like the way a quarterback presents himself in the huddle, does it matter?
It doesn't matter as much as long as everyone respects him. I think everybody in that locker room respects Jalen, right? One of the things that when you look at guys like Nick Foles, right, everyone respected him, but guys kind of wanted to be around Nick. I mean, he was funny and goofy. Like, he was one of the guys, right? In a way, Donovan was one of the guys, sometimes people, he pushed off some people, but he was one of the guys. I want my quarterback not to be this lone wolf that no one wants to be around. That's what happened to Carson Wentz at the end. No one wanted to be around him. I think that there are people in that locker room that respect everything that Jalen has done. They respect how he goes about his business. I also think that they probably want him to be a little bit more I don't want to say friendly, but they're a little bit more teamy. Like, I want you to be, one of these guys that everybody wants to be around. And I don't know that he accepts everybody in that same type of way, which I think that's what we feel as far as the media goes. We kind of feel that, like, Jalen kind of pushes people off just a little bit. But with that, I still think everybody in that locker room respects him and respects the talent that he brings to the football field.
Brian, let me ask you something. You're one of the best punt returners I've ever seen. But outside of your rookie season, they only let you do it sporadically. Well, now we're dealing with something similar with Cooper DeJean. The guy looks like he's a great punt returner, and Vic Fangio has said he's not happy that they're necessarily letting him do that. I mean, how do you balance that?
Well, if you need Cooper DeJean to be your best nickel player, to stop the opposing slot, to do all these different things on the defensive side of the ball, and you can't afford to allow him to be out. And we saw some things with Maddox early on in the season where he just was getting beat. We can't afford that. If Vic Fangio wants to go out there and run a four-man front and allow guys to cover in the back end, and we've been successful doing that, why would you ever want one of those important pieces and Cooper DeJean to ever be liable for injury at any point returning a punt? So I certainly understand that. I remember offensively, they didn't want me to return punts. John Harbaugh certainly did, because I was one of the more explosive players. And so there's always going to be some conflict between guys that play both a regular position, either offense or defense, and special teams. But if you're a high level on either one of those things, then maybe there's a chance where he plays obviously primarily defense. But in special situations where you need a return, that's when you put Cooper DeJean back there. When the guys are punting from the 50, the likelihood of a return is very, very low. Throw somebody else in there, allow them to fair catch it, and get on. But if there's a kick from the 20 where you're going to get some room to return the ball, and if he's your best returner, then you got to put your guy back there, because that changes the course of an offensive game. Starting from the 40 versus starting from the 20, your ability to have success is totally different. So that's why you want to get that extra 20, 30 yards by having Cooper DeJean back there.
Or when you're 2-3 and you're losing to the Giants in 2003. We all remember that one.
Well,
when BUS saved the season.
I don't remember that. Did you do something in that game? I remember
things worked out well.
I remember your game against Harcum College when you played for Villanova. That's messed up, man. Listen, I know you've been following college football, and you're a big Wildcat follower. I know you've been following Penn State this year, right? Ranked number 3. I mean, you on board?
I'm happy for you guys. I'm sure that there will be. I'm sure, like usual, there will be a stumbling block along the way.
You were delighted to be at Penn State there, watching the. That.
I enjoyed that. Penn State, and I told you this before, Mike. Penn State was one of the worst tailgate situations.
Well, because it was a noontime game against Villanova. People were still in bed. They didn't care about that one. No. But see, everything good with the horse farm. Horses good and everything.
The horses are good. We got 2 young horses that are doing really, really well. We have 2 2-year-olds that are doing great in training. We're going to be sending them off to some shows earlier next year. And so we're super excited. Everything is going good. I'm excited about our 76ers. Obviously disappointed the way that things are turning out early in the season. But everything on the horse farm is good. Ready for a little bit of basketball and football mixed throughout the week.
Awesome. It's on my bucket list to get down to the Westbrook farm. I know you got the chaps hanging up for me.
That's right. We got the boots, got the spurs, and the chaps.
Boots, the spurs, the hat. I want to gallop into the sunrise with B. West like it's Yellowstone, man.
Yeah, that'd be great for your back, Mike.
Yeah, I know. B. West, always a pleasure, man. Stay